Why do people have ego? Other than all the mystical philosophies about what constitutes a person, as an individual rather than a collective, this question specifically asks why. By this I assume you mean what purpose does ego fulfill, rather than its physiological, psychological, or spiritual, as relevant to yourself, identifying factors. So in that context, ego is simple mental fat. It does exactly the same thing for the mind that fat does for the body. It is a buffer, a necessity, because the world is neither equal nor constant. There are times of plenty, affirmation, group identity, and purpose of activity which floats one's boat. And there are times of famine, struggle, group confusion, depression, or inability to regulate emotional responses. It is for this that ego was both necessary and integral to an individual forever. We are designed to have experience of life where we both dominate and submit as required by the context. It is never healthy to remain one or the other. This applies to love, compassion, kindness, as equally to defense, resoluteness, and resolve. It is simply like fat. Too much will cause problems. I, the arrogant a-hole. Too much out of context will cause problems. I, the drunk uncle at the wedding. Too much in one area of the mind, I, self-identity, or being absorbed in one's occupation, the ideologue, will cause problems of isolation. I, the nerdy scientist who can't get a date. Too much ego, despite being readily noticed by all and sundry, has the extreme danger of causing a person to become a John Paul Getty III type. You are completely isolated by an abundant ego rather than an optimal one. The purpose of life is not to be alone in a crowd. It is to thrive in any crowd and contribute to that crowd. In fact, in creation, the very first thing, which wasn't good, was to be alone. Gen 2:18. If a person notices that they are standing alone, it's a pretty good clue that some of the fat of the mind likely needs to be stripped away. Help in a soup kitchen. Spend more time with family and let your ego be stripped occasionally. Seek out friends and be challenged by their views of life rather than your own. All good fat pills. Why do people have ego? So we have the resources to adapt to all sorts of environments just like fat. There is an optimal level. Anorexia is a malady just like obesity.